Chico. Ahora. Hola. Dice hola.
Oh, hola.
It's hidden. It's hidden. So, okay, 6:20.
Oh,
Okay. All right.
Oh, and then at the
I'm
end
gonna
we'll have
start
time to like
introducing
bring
yourself.
up stuff.
Yeah, totally.
Blakely said I should just do Q's and A's at the end, but I need a piece of paper because if
I
I don't
got
write
you.
this down,
I
I
got
will
you.
forget it. And I have to do it for Blakely.
Claro.
Oh,
Here.
yes, welcome.
All right. Yeah, do it. Okay. All right. So, thank you all for coming. Again, my name is Kristen Wolf, and I am the teacher. I can't talk. The coach, lead coach, mentor, and trainer at the World Language Initiative here in Montana. And the Montana Station for Open
Your chicken leg.
Go Bozeman representing.
represent. So it's really been an honor to be a part of this organization because I've grown so much as a teacher, and it's because of, the people in this room have inspired me in so many ways, near and far. And so it's really exciting for me to bring Tina here and just get everyone together whenever we can so that we can collaborate and make sure that we're all, feeling inspired, feeling supported, feeling like we can do this. It shouldn't be an all or nothing thing. It shouldn't be you against the world thing, right? So, in my opinion, that's my opinion. But if you like feeling against the world, I can't help you. No. So just a few announcements before we begin. Number one is if you're not officially volunteering or teaching a summer camp or doing anything with the World Initiative in an official way, we ask for a suggested donation of $5. We've got a fishbowl back there, or if you want to do a PayPal thing, it's suggested. We really want to make these things available to the community, so we're educating everybody about the way the brain acquires language and the way that we teach it in our classrooms to empower everyone. But yeah, and all in all, we are a nonprofit, and so any little bit helps us. So, gracias. Also, coming up, we have Give Big. Give Big, if you haven't heard of it, raise your hand if you've heard of Give Big. Yeah, Give Big. Okay, Give Big is a local, I think it started in Seattle, actually. It's a thing that was nonprofits would join together on one key day where they select ahead of time, and they would all work together to kind of create a critical mass of donors who are supporting organizations that are typically grassroots and organizations like ours. So it's now I believe it's a countrywide thing, and so we're doing our own Give Big. If you are associated with the world language, or you want to volunteer anyways, and you're not associated with it, or you're working toward it, whatever, we are looking for volunteers. So we're looking for volunteers. Elizabeth and Hannah have been awesome about sending out emails with sign up, so you can do that, make it happen. And also spread the word, use your social media platform to support what you love, hopefully you love us. But just support, use it in a positive way, right? That's what it's there for, in my opinion. So on May 2nd, we will be, go ahead. Oh, good. See, Hannah's so organized. I love you. Okay.
To volunteer either on the second one.
Sweet. Perfect. So May 2nd will be at the Loft, which was we're working together with Paulo Gomez and his wife. Yeah, that's you. wait, thanks, I mean. So yeah, it's called an ultra luxury night. So spread the word to people who might be interested. Yeah, there's a lot of perks involved with going on that night. And we do need people, we don't need as many people for that night, but we do need people on May 3rd, the actual Give Big Day. We'll be out in front of Cosmica, an awesome store, if you haven't checked it out already, in downtown Bozeman, owned by Anna McCrae, who's fantastic. She always searches for things that are just eclectic and, usually Latin American themed, but she's amazing. So we are working with her, and we'll be there collecting donations using a PayPal account or something. See, it's fuerte. So that's that. Give Big. And then next, tomorrow, Tina will be presenting at MSU. If anybody is interested in going, I sent out an email to a lot of people. Maybe Evelyn, Evelyn's with MSU, so I'm picking on her, but she's eating. So you can contact Galen Brokaw if you're still interested in going. If you like what you see tonight, this is kind of just like a teaser. But it's all day tomorrow. And then Tina will also be presenting in Dillon with the MALT conference, the Montana Association of Language Teachers. And if you haven't joined that organization yet, I highly recommend it. They have helped me to further my practices, my understanding of language acquisition. They've brought in amazing speakers like Tina. So I highly recommend joining their organization and going to their conferences. They're so inspiring. It's just a group of community that helps you to feel grounded. Like, again, so you're not feeling alone. Anyway, and then also next Monday we have a pint night coming up at Bridger Brewing. So again, if you can, if you feel ready, use your social media to promote that. We're trying to get as many people to come out and support World Language Initiative. And last but not least, we have summer camps coming up this summer. We still have room in Chinese, Arabic, French. I believe Spanish is mostly filled, but we need to promote these languages. We need them, we need people knowing that they're options, that they're fun, that this is a way to expand their mind and create community. It's great. So please, again, use your social media platform, please. What? Those are good questions. I know Evelyn is doing this year. Oh, I didn't mention there's a heritage speaker one this year, which is fantastic. It's the first time we've done that. So, and Arabic is new this year too. So yeah, our Arabic, one of our Arabic. Are you the only one this year? Yeah. Sweet. So yeah, he's gonna be doing Arabic, and she's doing with her sister a heritage speaker camp. I believe most of them start at age 4 through 13. Is that right? 4 through 12. Okay, thank you. Yeah, it's all on our website. I'm not good at the details.
And did you split 4 to 7? Yeah, 8 to 12.
Yeah, we split it age group wise. Thank you. That's a good point. So yeah, without further ado, I would really like to present my friend and someone who I deeply respect, who changed I used to feel really trapped. I'll just give you a really brief 2-second history about me. But I went to this conference and I was like, yeah, this is super fun. I love this. Oh my gosh, wow. And then I got back and was like, oh my gosh, I feel so boring. I didn't feel like I was connecting with my students. And those of you that know me, I don't like to feel boring. So it was really hard for me to connect with the students while repeating the same words over and over and over again. I really wanted to talk to my students in the target language. And Tina has really inspired me to do that, to do just that, to make it comprehensible so your brain can acquire it. She's inspired me to be creative, to try new things, No, you have. I feel really blessed to have this opportunity to have her here in Montana so that we can grow our language community in a really positive way. She is literally on the cutting edge of everything, really. Black holes, nuclear physics. What else? What? She's a celebrity. Yeah,
I have this new method of baking where you don't actually bake anything, you just drive to the bakery.
Oh, what?
Oh my gosh.
Impressive.
Cutting edge.
Oh, yeah. So that's what I'm talking about.
It's called the money method.
Heck yeah. So without further ado, this is Tina Hargaden from CI Lift Up. I highly recommend watching her videos if I haven't shared this with you. She teaches French and Spanish. She recorded herself for 2 years teaching middle schoolers, and it's highly entertaining and a great way to learn French and Spanish if you want to, because she speaks slowly. She's with her students. It's it is doable. She breaks it down for you. So without further ado, Tina Hargaden from CI Lift Up.
Thank you. Wait, let's make sure we got our hug on camera.
Okay. No.
Do you want to leave this here? It's
yes.
put
You
it
got this.
sideways. Maybe
We'll move
maybe
it if we need to.
put it over here or something. It'll be a better angle.
Okay, we got this. I'll just do this like that. Sound good. Okay, so
Yeah.
here we go.
All right, you sure?
Yeah, you do this.
All right. Everybody have nice to eat and stuff? So you guys, I'm really glad to be here, and I hope I can live up to Kristen's introduction, but I will just kind of to try. So before we start, I just want to introduce myself. I think this is mine. I just want to introduce myself a little bit more, and then I just want to see who you guys kind of are, and what your background is, and what you teach, and just like with a show of hands, because I don't want to take up too much time going around the circle. You guys probably all know each other. Raise your hand if you don't know anybody here. Well, you should turn to somebody near you and tell them your name and where you were born and what you like about Bozeman and what you teach. Okay, so your name, where you were born, what you like about Bozeman, and what you teach. Tell them now, or you'll know somebody. Go.
I don't know.
You're not all talking, so go.
Okay. Don't I Yeah, and yeah, it's so fun.
I like you. And I like the co-op. Alright, so thanks for meeting somebody. So let's see, 5, 4, thank you guys, 3. Well, I guess the rest of us were very quiet, so I'm going to give you guys 3 points. Yay! 1, 2, 3. Oh, but I'm going to teach you guys French. So, 1, 2, 3. So I just want to introduce myself a little bit more, and then I want to see kind of like who is here. So please raise your hand if you don't know anybody here. Wait, you didn't talk to somebody?
I did.
Oh, then why don't you raise your hand? You know somebody. That's okay, you know her now, right? Well, you know what? As the night goes on, you guys are going to get closer and closer. I predict, like, you know, you're sharing a seat right here. You're probably going to sit right beside. Okay, so I just want to tell you a little bit about my background and like where I'm coming from, and then I wanted to see who else. So my name is Tina, like she said, and I'm from Georgia, but I live in Oregon now. I've lived in Oregon for 20 years. I love it there. Anybody ever visited Oregon? I'm going to. Really? I know. I'm excited. So I've taught different things for a long time, about 16 years. And I've taught some things that aren't languages. And I think that Kristen was saying, like, she tried a different way of teaching, and then she found some stuff that I had written, and she said it changed her perspective. And I think I would say the reason that I have a different perspective on language teaching is because I taught these other subjects. So I taught language arts and social studies and reading for 9 years with some French mixed in there. And so I think that like having that perspective of teaching reading and writing and social studies has, and I also had an ESOL endorsement, and I actually now teach ESOL like, as a job. So I think having that perspective like on teaching content like social studies and teaching like reading and writing and literacy really made me look at languages in a different environment. But I honestly didn't learn languages the way that I teach them. Probably most of us didn't. So I learned French in school when I was a high school kid, and then I always did really well. I made like A's and everything on all my tests, and my vocabulary was talking about this before class or lunch or dinner. And I did great. I made A's on everything, and I was a good student. And I loved French class, and then I went to France, and I was sad. I cried a lot because I was lonely, and I didn't know how to like actually talk to people, even though I had made really good grades for 3 years. And so I knew that I wanted to be a language teacher because I love languages and I love teaching. And so I thought, I was like 18 at the time. And I thought, well, when I'm a teacher, I want to teach differently. I want to teach my students how to actually like use language. So then when I went to teacher school, 9 years later, my teacher one day, she did this demonstration. It was like in French methods of teaching class. Well, it was all language. But it was language teaching methods for like world language. And she brought in her bike. So she brings her bike into the classroom and she just starts talking about it in French. And she said, I just want to give you an example of what it means to teach with like comprehensible input. So that would be language, messages that you can understand. So she brings in a bike, and I already had some French, but you know, even for the people who didn't speak any French, they were getting some input. She was like pointing to the different parts of her bike, and she was just telling us what they were and kind of describing them, and then asking us some very basic questions. And even though I had majored in French in undergrad, this was in grad school, even though I majored in French, I was like, huh, you know, this is some pretty specific vocabulary. And I was like, those words just, when I learned them, it was like a different type of experience. I was like, oh, when you're seeing something like interesting happen right in front of you, and it's being described or it's happening in the language, like the words actually go into your brain in a different way. And like most of us have probably had that experience. Like, I don't know about you, but like, well, let's just say, will you raise your hand if you started like learning, maybe not the language that you teach, but like any language, you started like a language you can speak now, but you started learning it by like studying it, like in your brain, like memorizing things, like learning things, like passing quizzes and passing tests. So either English or the language that you teach. Okay, so raise your hand again if like you had that experience of like, I want to use the language, I want to communicate the language, but I can't do it because I just don't have the ability to do that. So yeah, thank you very much. So that's pretty common because that's how our brains work. And there's really no way to change that. That's just the way our brains actually operate. So I'm really happy to be here. I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of the background of how languages are built inside our brains. And then I want to talk to you guys a little bit, you were saying earlier, how to, not like the end-all be-all, like best way ever to structure a lesson, but the best way that I've got to structure my lesson, to hit like a bunch of different types of language, like reading, writing, listening, and speaking in one class period. So for example, plan things over and over, so that you can kind of do the same type of sequence and not have to stress out about like, how am I going to structure this lesson for this day? Because you guys all teach after school, and you teach during the day or do other things, and you're all over the place, and you've got all kinds of levels of kids in your classes. And I think for you guys, probably like keeping to a routine would be very beneficial. So I want to spend probably half the time talking about like background, language acquisition, and then I want to tell you a little bit about like the structure, and then I'll teach you a very short little abbreviated lesson in French, probably about 22 minutes of French lesson. So before we start, I just want you to kind of let me know who you are, okay? So let's see. Will you raise your hand if you teach like during the day, like as well as after? Okay, first let me just make sure that I've got that correct. Raise your hand if you teach in an after-school program. All right. Raise your hand if you teach in a different type of like community-based setting, like a camp or other outside school experiences. Okay, great. And then would you raise your hand if you teach during the school day, like you teach in a school, like you're a school teacher? Okay, cool, okay. And will you raise your hand if you are not a teacher and you're just here for curiosity's sake or because you love learning languages? Awesome. So honey, you can't do that. I have to talk. You can put this to your dad. I gotta talk, huh? I can't play. So let's see. Other things that I want to know. Oh yeah, so will you raise your hand if you teach Spanish? Don't be shy, please raise your hands. Okay. And will you raise your hand if you teach French? Don't be shy, raise your hands up. There you go. All right. Vive la France. Will you raise your hand if you teach Arabic? Nice, that's awesome. I just went to the Chicago Council of Arabic Teachers. And it was 75 Arabic teachers in one room. It was really cool. It was really fun. And we raise your hand if you teach Chinese, Mandarin. Cool, all right? And we raise your hand if you teach another language I didn't mention. What language is that?
Portuguese.
Portuguese, oh, that's cool. And what language is English? Oh, English. Oh, so that's what I teach. We raise your hand if you also teach English. All right, cool. Oh, so you teach Portuguese and English?
Well, I'm not teaching English right
Oh, you have? Okay, cool. And let's see. Well, okay. So thinking about like the type of teaching that Kristen was saying is her goal, which is like communicating in the language, like being creative and doing things together in the language. Just think about like how much experience you have had at that type of teaching. I'm just gonna ask you to raise your hand, just so I know like kind of what your background is with this type of teaching. If you're not a teacher, you can just keep your hand in your lap or your pocket, I suppose. If you haven't taught anything, then your answer will be zero. So if you've been doing this kind of teaching where like you are communicating a lot in the language and like trying to keep the class mostly conducted in the language, and that's your main focus in your teaching, and you've been doing that for longer than 8 years, will you raise your hand? Oh, okay. Cool. I'm glad to be here. Kristen, how long have you been teaching this way?
I'm 10 years.
Oh, well, raise your hand. Nice. All right. If you have been teaching that way longer than 4 years, will you raise your hand? Nice. This looks so much more than let's see, longer than 2 years. Longer than 1 year. Cool. Nice. This year you're trying it out. Hey, awesome. And you're just like, okay, maybe this will be interesting. I'm just here to like learn. Maybe I'll try this out, or I'm not a teacher and I've never taught. So that means I did. Don't be shy. Raise your hand, please. Thank you very much. Okay. So the first thing I want to do is talk to you guys. I think I kind of got everything, all the information that I want. Raise your hand if you're born in Montana.
Whoa!
Yeah. Raise your hand if you weren't born in Montana. Okay, just making sure that everybody's awake. Raise your hand if you. Never mind. If you're born again in Montana, we're like in a church, you know. Anybody born again in Montana? You come here to this is like I grew up in the South, right? So this is like the crying area where you calm down and like crying down here. Anybody ever seen that in a church? Maybe that's a Georgia thing. I don't know. So anyway, where was I? Oh yeah, I'm gonna talk to you guys about like sort of what happens in our brains when we are trying to build the ability to communicate in the language. So just what is kind of behind that, just like the background. So here's a little quiz. You're gonna turn to your partner. Your partner will be the person sitting beside you. So look at that person right now. I told you guys, you are gonna be a really good partner. Okay. Oh, you don't have a partner? You have a partner? Maybe we need some. Gaze at your partner, please. Okay. Tell your partner. Two things, please. This doesn't get right. It's very dark, so I'm gonna do this. So tell them these two things. One, what is like the two most important things to do for a student when you want them to get the ability to use the language? What are the two most important things that a teacher can do? Just in your opinion, and later we'll see if I give you any ideas that, I don't know, maybe add to this idea. And two, what are two like ways to do that in your teaching? Okay, so this is kind of like the goal, and this is kind of like how you would get there. All right. So what are the two most important things that you think at this moment right now that a teacher can do to get kids or any person learning a language to be able to use the language without having to think about it too much? Like, we don't want them to be like, I was in France, okay? By the time I was like, I think I know what I want to say. Like, everybody was like, gone. You know, it took me like a whole, a couple minutes to like figure out what I wanted to say, and then either the conversation had moved on, or everybody like physically moved on to some other thing. So if we don't want that for our kids, what are the two most important things we can do in the classroom for them? And what are two ways that we can make that happen? Like, that might be strategies or activities or like ways to teach. Okay? So tell them that now, and remember what your partner says, and we'll like revisit it later and see if they've like added or changed what they think. Okay, go. So honestly, this is gonna be so visual. Like up here on this screen, or on this whiteboard. So I think I'm just gonna put this right here. Kristen, I'm just gonna put this here so you can like see what I'm writing. Because I was looking at the thing and like over there you can't really even like see. And Kristen, it looks like but look.
I don't know how to do it.
See?
Oh, yeah. Hi. I don't know.
Oh wow.
Well,
If it's backwards, it's just backwards.
it's okay. It'll help people that are dyslexic.
All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, no. 0. All right, good job. Okay, so I'm gonna give you guys a little like visual lecture, and I literally like call this strategy a visual lecture. And I'm gonna give you this visual lecture to teach you the stuff that I want you to know, but it's also a way that, like, it's a strategy that you could use to teach your students about anything. Now, if your students have a short attention span, you're gonna need to give them some breaks to process and move, but you guys look like, well, most of us are, adult people. And so you probably don't need that many breaks. And plus you have food in your laps. So I'm gonna, when you get done eating, if you could put your stuff on the floor, and that way I'll know when I can kind of give you guys like a movement break and kind of model that for you as well. But I just want you to know that this is a strategy that I would use to teach all kinds of different things. But right now I'm just going to use it to teach you. It's kind of very meta right now, okay? So I'm going to use a strategy that you can use for language acquisition to teach you guys about language acquisition. So it's like, it's very recursive right now. And I just want you to also I want you to get the information, but I want you to also be thinking, like, how could I do something similar with my students, even if it's not as long or as complex as what we're able to do right now. So, before we start, tell your partner, what is a topic? Maybe like a cultural topic, holiday, traditions, geography, history, important people from the cultures that speak your language. What is some type of content or like facts, nonfiction type information that you would want to teach to your students? Just tell them that right now, because that way you'll have it in your mind and maybe you'll be thinking, how could I use this to teach my kids? So just tell them a topic, a cultural topic, historical topic, nonfiction that you want to teach. Go. They like stay up all night long and they yeah. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yay! 1 point, yay! Okay, so, oh, by the way, before I get started, I want to tell you that by the end of the day, or end of the evening, I'll give you, I didn't have a chance, I got a call from the Montana Language Association, and I had to take a call, but I will give you a code for a Google Classroom. And in the Google Classroom, there's all kinds of resources, including this PDF, they're all PDFs almost, called the CALC manual. And in the CALC manual, this is a term from English, from like English as a ESL or ESOL, for like academic teaching in a way that's understandable to language learners. And so there's a CALC manual in there, and it tells you a lot about like the strategies that you can use to teach this kind of content. And so what I'm going to do now is very much based on some strategies that you can find in the CALC manual, which is in the Google Classroom, which I will give you the code for before you leave. Okay, so I would call this a visual lecture or maybe an input chart, because it's like a chart with visuals that provides input, much like a lecture. But it's like a scaffolded lecture, because the visuals are going to help you understand. Now, of course, I'm going to deliver this in English, so unless English is not, your strongest language, it might not be such a language learning experience for you, but just pretend. Like, think about how you could use it. All right, you guys, I'm going to draw a person to show you how languages work in our brains. So here's the person. There's his head, or her head. They have a very long neck, and there's their body. So inside of a person, they have a brain, generally, and their brain knows a lot of rules, or a lot of facts, right? It knows math, like 1 + 1 = 2. It knows dates, like 1492 when the Columbian Exchange started to happen. It knows grammar rules, like the difference between it's and its. Some people know that, others don't. So our brains are, full of different facts: math facts, history facts, grammar facts. So when I went to France, I had a lot of facts in my head about the language. But when I wanted to express myself and speak from the heart, I didn't do very well at that. But that's really our goal for our students. We want them to not have to be thinking about what do I want to say. We want them to be able to not vomit, okay? It looks like puke, sorry. So we want them to be able to speak from the heart and not have to get up into their brains, because it takes a lot of time. So right now, I'm talking to you guys about languages, and I love teaching about languages, and I love sharing this information, and I'm really able to just speak from the heart. And anything that I'm using my brain for, it's like to think about other types of facts. So I am thinking, but I'm thinking about the content. I'm thinking about the ideas and the facts that I want to share with you. The English language that's coming out of me is not, I don't have to think too much about my English. Now I am thinking a little bit about my English. I'm thinking don't curse. Don't sound too Southern. And you want to sound real smart because you're practicing to go to MSU tomorrow, which like I'm petrified because there are all these PhDs and I'm afraid they're going to judge me. So I'm thinking don't do these things, but everything else is just coming like straight from the heart. So what we want to do for our students is give them this ability, because this is not going to help them to actually like express themselves. Plus, here's a little fact. Not every single person is really good and happy when they're learning math. Some people are really good at math, and some people are not so good at math. We all have a different aptitude for learning math. Some people are really happy when they have to memorize dates and facts and geography, latitude, longitude. Where exactly is Seoul, Korea? Where exactly is Paris, France? Some people love that kind of stuff, and other people like cannot remember the dates, and they hate history if that's what their grade is based on, because they just like aren't very good at that. Their brain just doesn't work that way. Maybe they're good at math, but they're not good at this. Some people, like me, just love learning the rules of a language. If I could have spoken French from learning just the rules, I would have been very happy. I very much enjoyed learning the rules. Raise your hand if you like learning the rules about language. Yeah, nerds, okay? So, like, some people are, math nerds. Some people are history nerds. Some people are grammar nerds. That's me. So this kind of stuff, we all have our different aptitudes. Just nod your head if you know that that's true, and like everybody's kind of got their own little like school subject that is good for them and easy for them. But here's the thing. Every single type of person can all speak their first language without thinking about it. Every single person. Unless they have some extreme physical impairments or some like extreme cognitive impairments, pretty much every human on the planet can speak at least one language without having to think about it. So that's the difference between like this conscious type of learning and this unconscious process of acquiring language ability. Every single person can do this. And they don't even have to think about it. And it really doesn't even seem like work. It just happens. So I bet you're curious about how it happens. It sounds too good to be true. In fact, my students will often say to me that they don't think they're actually learning anything in my class. In fact, it's actually a problem for me. Like, I know they're learning a bunch. Because my students, after like, you guys, some of you see your students every day, some of you see your students once a week. But after about 4 or 5 weeks in my class, which is about 20 to 25 class sessions, my students can sit down and write like a paragraph or 2 or 3. And they're like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel like we're learning anything. And I'm like, look what you can do in French. And they're not like memorizing these things and writing them down. They're like making up their own stuff. So I'm like, okay, granted, these are middle school kids, so, they're already literate and everything. This is not going to happen with kindergartners. I'm sorry. You're not going to get kindergartners to write 3 paragraphs in 5 weeks, no matter what, most likely. But like, even though I can see that my students are doing so well and their language abilities are so advanced, it's still to them, it feels like they're not even learning.
So I've actually had to like come up with tricks to make them see that they're actually learning, like to show them that they're learning, because like they want it to feel a little more difficult than it actually is. Because it's not difficult. I mean, look at that kid right there. He's learning English right now because his papa's talking to him. And, he doesn't have to think about it or work at it. I mean, do you give him worksheets? When are you going to start that? Because, like, I started learning with worksheets. I mean, when I first started learning French, I had a worksheet. So, like, that kid's almost 2.5 years old. So you're about 2.5 years behind. So you get those worksheets out. So anyway, it like acquiring a language or building acquired competence is, like, science has shown that the process that we go through at that age and the process that we go through at any other age, it's the same process. Like, that just happens unconsciously while we're actually focused on something else. So the brain is thinking about other stuff. It could be thinking about anything. It could be thinking about a song. It could be thinking about the ideas that you're learning in a lecture. The new ideas that you're learning. It could be thinking about like a story. Or like a discussion. So it's like the brain is always going to be thinking about something. And the language is just going to be like unconsciously like acquired. And then of course we can also like think about the language with our brain, which is what we did in Miss Coggins. I love Miss Coggins, okay? I love her. But she just, this actually, all this research that goes into like the field of second language acquisition, it didn't even exist when Madame Coggins was in college. The field of second language acquisition is really new. It's like a super new science. It's only, because before that, it was like all behaviorism. So that's where like the Berlitz method and the audiolingual method came from. Like, I say it, you say it, I say it, you say it. Like, it was believed up until like the late 50s that that language was basically just like a series of like almost like habits. So that when you hear one thing, you're triggered to respond. It was like, stimulus response. Like, that guy Pavlov who would like ring the bell and the dog would salivate. It was thought that we actually operate that way with language. And so it wasn't until the field of language acquisition like moved out of that focus in the late 50s, mid to late 50s, that like this type of information started to get investigated and researched and discovered. So I can't blame Miss Coggins. She didn't know. She was like audiolingual method. She was like, let's practice some dialogues. Let's memorize some rules and practice them. That was just how it was thought when she was educated. That's how they thought you learned a language. So if these two things like, and here's another thing. This learning, okay, this will blow your little mind. Many people think that because, okay, raise your hand again if you started like by learning the rules and then later you can speak the language. So you learn the rules and at first it was hard, but now you can speak the language. So thank you. It's a common situation. I learned all the rules of French. At first it was hard. I couldn't speak French, but now, voila, I can speak French somewhat. Well, mostly when I can usually say what I want to express in French. So people think like, I started with the rules. And then now I have acquired the ability to speak in French without having to think about it too much. But that's not really true. This, and like, this is like you can see this like inside like brain science, okay? This is a totally different part of our brain than this. There's a special process that happens inside of our brain that only does this process. It's like this special thing that's part of being a human. And of course, having a thinking, conscious, cognitive brain like is also a special, happy part of being a human. But like this is a more ancient part, and this is a more like like it's older in our evolution. So it's more basic to our evolution. Because before people, like parsed out all the rules and all the facts and figures of the language and, like the study of linguistics and the grammar, human beings had been communicating for a long time before that. Before algebra was invented, before like the study of grammar came along, before like formal education came along, people were supposed to memorize like abstract concepts. People were communicating with each other. It's a way older like part of us. So it's a totally different process. And this is gonna look really terrible. I'm sorry. It looks like I cut the guy's head off, sorry. This and this they're different. They don't match up. So like memorizing words and like working with words and working with phrases or grammar phrases and combining things with our brain, like almost, I don't know about Chinese, but I know that in Portuguese and French and Spanish, there's a lot in the language, like in the system of language or the rules, that's actually a lot like algebra. It's like if you have de, and then you have el, it goes together to be de. It's like a formula. It's like, here's the two different parts, and this is how they combine in this formula. Now in French, it gets even worse, because it's like, if you have de and le, which is of and the, then they go together and it's du, and du, du. So you got de plus the, and somehow there's a weird kind of math and it comes out being du. Except if it's after the word pas. Because after the word pas, you just have de. The le goes away and there's no du. Unless, before this, it says is. So, if it says it is not, you can still have du, but if this is anything but is, it has to go to de. So then the poor, kid, or, the poor person who's trying to, like, figure out how to say something in the language, like, there's this whole tree of, like, basically algebra type manipulation that they're trying to do in their head just to say one thing. When, like, actually, in reality, like, if our goal is communicating something, like, it really doesn't even matter if they say du or de. Like, it doesn't matter. The thing that really matters is if they say pa. And then in French, there's, like, another part. But you don't really have to say that. But we teach them, like, you have to put that ne there. Like, that's really important. It's not really important, though. People drop it all the time. The only thing that's important is that, you say pa. I mean, you could even say, like, if you want to say, like, I don't want to eat any spaghetti right now. You can just say, pa spaghetti. Like, that's all you really have to say. Or, I mean, really, all you really have to say is spaghetti. Like, or you could even be like this, like. So, I mean, we get all hung up. I don't know about you guys. I don't know how traditional you guys are, or, like, your colleagues, or what your situation is. But it almost doesn't even matter how traditional, like, you are as a person, because this is how we conceptualize the profession. So, like, even people who are, like, gung-ho to teach this way, they still battle with this kind of idea. It's like when you picture what a teacher is supposed to do, just picture in your mind, what's a teacher look like? You probably pictured a chalkboard. But we don't really use chalkboards anymore. But that's kind of the picture of the typical teacher that comes to mind. Or, maybe they're standing up, like, lecturing, even though, like, that's not really how a lot of teachers teach. Like, we have this conception in our head of, like, what education is supposed to be like. And it's really hard to disrupt that. So that's why I like to lead with this, because it's like, okay, Tina, I get it. But, like, getting over this idea that we were, like, trying to learn things about the language and not just, like, use the language to, like, teach the brain other things that aren't the language. It's kind of like, the looking glass type, like, go through the looking glass. Like, it's like suddenly everything that you think of when you think of a language class, it doesn't really apply anymore. Like, our objective today is to learn the colors. Well, it's like, you're trying to feed the colors into the brain. Or our objective today is to learn how to count to 20. It's still kind of like the objective is still like these pieces of the language are going to feed it into the brain so the brain can remember it. So the shift is to start thinking of our objectives and our role as a teacher of languages as kind of like being a teacher of something else that just so happens to be conducted in a new language. And that way, this system can get the ingredient that it needs. There's only one thing that makes this go. This system runs on something totally different. This system runs on messages. It doesn't really matter what the messages are about, but it does matter that the messages are understood by the person. And this is like the art of it. This is where people like have to kind of practice. Because if we could just give them any messages and it didn't matter if they understood it, well, my job would be so cool. People would be like lining up to be a language teacher because you could just put on like, you know, the red balloon, you know, some movie. Put on the news in Spanish or, you know, a film in Chinese and just sit back and eat some candy and watch your students learn the language. It would be great. The problem is that like you can't expect a brand new person to understand just any old language. It has to be very like special. Some people call it motherese. No offense to the fathers in here. And it's like when you're raising a kid. So mothers across cultures do this, and fathers too. But they call it motherese. They could call it fatherese or parentese. Now that would be the gender neutral way to put that, but you know, whatever. Breederese, maybe. You know, like breed a child, talk to it. So. It's what a mother or a father does, or a parent, when they're trying to get their like 1 or 2-year-old to understand something. They pitch it really low, and they show them things. Like, would you like the blue marker, or would you like the orange marker? And then if the kid's like, then you're like, repeat it again. And you know, mothers and fathers tend to like use a lot of like facial expressions, and they kind of slow down, like make eye contact with the kid, and like check to make sure the kid's with you, and they don't talk too long to the kid. They just keep it real short because like they don't want to overload the kid, make the kid like, you know, get confused. And if they do confuse their kid, they fix it up because their goal is to like do something with the kid, maybe get them to put their clothes on, or pick up their toys or something, or tell them a story, or teach them a new idea, or sing a song with them. So this is kind of like the art of this way of teaching. It's like we can't just talk to them. We can't just put on a resource. We have to like act like their parent and interact with them at a level that they can actually understand. And then the other part of like the art of it is that we have to have like a bank of things that we can use with our students that give a lot of messages, but that are also like interesting to the kids. So they have to be like kind of like a kid-friendly thing to do, something that the students are actually interested in, and generally that would mean something that is about them and their lives and their interests and things they want to learn. So making the, whatever you're engaging the brain in, the activity, the messages, the learning, whatever the goal of the class is, making that interesting to the actual kids in that class, who are different from every other kid in every other class, every other place. They're special because they're them. They have their own interests, and what works for them might not work for the other kids down the, you know, on Tuesday. And make it understood to them. And be kind of like aware, like a mother or father would be, like aware of like, are they getting it? Am I losing them? And having like the skills to go back and rephrase or, no, just like this one. See, blue. Oh, look. So having those skills to make it both interesting so that they pay attention and you don't have classroom management problems, and understandable so that they can take in the language, because that's the objective. Okay, so at the beginning of class, I asked you to tell your partner 2 things that are super important about like getting people to be able to speak the language from the heart. So hopefully your partner remembers what you said to them. If they didn't, maybe you remember what you said to them. If you don't remember what you said to them, maybe you can tell them what you think now. And then we're gonna move on into some ways to do that. But you might already have some ideas, you might already be doing this, you might, you might have remembered some new things to share with them. So just revisit what you said to them earlier, and then revisit that too, but just know that we're about to move on into the fun part where I have to teach you some French and show you some various different ways. All right, so please, just revisit that with your partenaire. That's French for partenaire. Oh, wait, dude, maybe this is mine. It's the same thing.
So like to take like a team and
It's partly because of our heart,
yeah. So that's one of the things.
That's sad.
Do you mind if we pause and take a group picture really quick?
Take a group picture?
Before everybody leaves.
I just got them all. Wait, is it,
Mohammed.
Kristen, am I going over? Am I like over
No, you're
zealous?
fine. I think some people just have other
The
things.
winter has been so long that I think if the sun is still up, that I should still be doing stuff.
I know, right?
Because in Oregon, I guess it's the same here. In the middle of the winter, at like 4:45, it's like, well, time to get going. It's dark. So I kind of keep waiting for that signal. Like at this time of the year, I'll just go and go and go because I'm waiting for it to get dark.
So, Tina, Mohammed, can you stay for the picture or do you have to go right now? Okay, good luck.
Okay,
She's in with it.
bye.
Okay. Can we all just come, I guess right
Well, if he's
here?
not here, is it worth it? I'm just kidding.
I know, right? Okay, yeah, come on over here. Let's all go here. Tina, you too.
Wait, we should kneel on the crying thing.
Oh, yeah. Kneel on the crying spot. Yay. Okay. Let's see.
I want to get your picture.
We're gonna need to move the chairs away.
All right.
Let's do this. Yeah, come together a little closer. We need some short people to come like me. Come join our picture.
We're just gonna check the things out.
Okay. We need everybody in the picture. Or you don't have to. No, it's all good. I'll be surrounding you. Okay. Yeah, we'll take one.
Want me to take a picture?
Here.
I'll take it and you get it.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you. Merci. Yay.
What do you want to say? What language are you telling us? Say
All the languages.
All right. Right, one more. All right.
Thank you.
Maybe before the club.
Yeah.
Let's see, Kristen, what time is it? It's 7:30. Well, I told you I was going to teach you a lesson for 22 minutes, so I have 23 minutes until like 8 o'clock. So I'm going to teach you a lesson for about 22 minutes. That's like really amazing to me that like it actually worked out that way. So I was telling you guys earlier, and I'm just gonna make this really quick, okay? So I might actually end up teaching for more like 19 minutes because I do want to give some background. So I was telling you earlier that if you are teaching a bunch of different like kids in a bunch of different locations, or if you feel like you're kind of low on time, I mean, who isn't low on time? Myself, I like to have a sort of repeatable structure that I can repeat day after day. And then into the structure, I can put in like new ideas. But it's a routine that I know will take us from like doing something together as a class through some other activities, like literacy activities and like talking activities, and that I can just rely on to not have to plan and prep over and over for every single class. And I was doing this for a few, well, I mean, I was like developing this, I guess, for myself over the course of a few years. And I wasn't actually teaching this to people until like this year. And then I kind of realized like, wait a second, out of all the stuff that I could possibly teach them, like a way to cut down on their prep time and still have a really like engaging class that is not like one thing's dragging on and on I think that's really one of the most valuable things that I could teach you. As well as like showing you some tricks, I hope, that will show you what it kind of looks like to work with a group and try to like speak that parent needs, where you're like pitching it to their level. So even if you speak French or Portuguese or Spanish, like I'm gonna go super slow, probably slower than you might need me to. But raise your hand if you do not speak any language such as French, Spanish, Portuguese, and your native language is not English either. Anybody not speak any of those languages like natively? Okay, sweet! All right, so I'm gonna look at you frequently because you would be a lot like your average kid who's taking their first day or their first year of a new language. Because if you speak French or Spanish or Portuguese, they're very similar. So I'll just look at you and make sure that you're getting it, okay? But I won't ask you questions, I promise, okay? You got it? You good? What's your name?
Yang.
Yang?
Yes.
Y-A-N?
Y-I-N-G.
Yang. Hey, give Yang a big round of applause because she's awesome. Thank you. Yang, I've noticed that Chinese people, when they get clapped for them, they always clap too. I think that's very sweet.
Engaging.
In my family, in my culture, we didn't do that. People clapping for us were like, thank you. I am wonderful, thank you. But I have noticed, like, I did a workshop in China, and every time we would clap for anybody, the person was like, yes, thank you. And they're clapping back, it's so sweet. But actually, clap back is not always a positive thing. Anyway, whatever. Okay. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about just sort of the structure, and then I'll just quickly whip through. Oh, thank you, Benjamin. You're the bestest. Thank you. Just realized I need some paper. So I'll just give you a framework of how I kind of like am planning this lesson, and then I'm just going to whip through it super quick, even though in a regular class, we would take longer for these different elements. So I think of this as a star because it has 5 parts, much like a star. So the first part is oral language, and then the second part is also oral language, and this is written language. This is reading, and then this is like writing and speaking. Thanks, Benjamin. And I'll just put that right there, okay? Just leave it right there. So something that I want you to realize when you look at this is that this is all basically input. Like, you'll notice when we do this as like a demonstration that we do go back and forth. Like, I'll be asking you to give me ideas and I'll be asking you questions. But it's like input, 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 and input. Not a lot of output on your part because of this system. If we just like memorize what we're gonna say, and I ask you to like, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna give you some things to say, and I'm gonna ask you to start talking right now, then that probably means that you're just like memorizing them and just using them with your brain. If we want to get down into this system, we have to give up sort of some hurry that we have. So there's this saying in this type of teaching that a flood of input comes before a trickle of output. So you have to have a ton of input, and then what the student is going to put out is going to be very small. But what does come out is actually real language. There's a linguist named Bill Van Patten. Bill Van Patten. He goes by BVP. If you look up BVP linguist on the internet, you'll find all kinds of things that he's written. And he says that when we are getting students to learn and memorize things, they can sort of sound fluent. They can sound like they are speaking the language, but it's not really language, it's language-like behavior. So it's language-like behavior. Which is why, like, you can memorize, like, hey, you know, bonjour, comment allez-vous? Like, hey, how's it going? Je vais bien, merci, et vous? I'm going really well. But like, if you ask the students to like take that language apart and like use it in a different context, they wouldn't know which part is which. It's just language-like behavior. They've memorized it. It sounds like they're fluent, but they're not really. And if you ask them to do something else with the language, they wouldn't be able to do it. They would be, they don't have enough language. So when we give them, like when we lead with all this input and all this listening and all this reading and all this, because the writing is like a shared thing. Like you'll see, we'll write together. And while we're writing, we're still talking. I'm going to be doing a lot of talking to you guys while we write. And when we're reading, we're like reading it out loud together. We're doing activities with it. And so then when we get this little tiny trickle of output at the end, it's just a tiny bit. If you had to memorize stuff, it would sound a lot better at the end of the period. But it wouldn't really be language that was coming out. It would be language-like behavior. So this might be just a little trickle, but it's real. It's like real language. It's like they're actually using the language. They're actually expressing themselves in the language. It's not going to be as beautiful as learning how to say, oh, je vais bien, merci, et vous? I'm doing well, thanks, and you? You know, je vais bien, merci, et vous? Like, you can just memorize how that sounds, and you can just spit it out, and you can know that when you hear that trigger, comment allez-vous? Then you put that out. But it's not real self-expression. It's just like, it's like that audiolingual thing with the Pavlov and the bell and the dog. Like, when you hear this, salivate. When you hear this, say this. So at the end of class, which is gonna be like 14 minutes, at the end of this short little class, you'll be able to say a few things in French, but it's gonna feel kind of clunky, especially if you're young and you just learned French for the first time. But if you can even say one word or two words and you're actually expressing your own ideas, then that is actually real language that will probably stick with you and you won't forget it as quickly. So I'm gonna just circle on here what part I'm doing. Okay? So I'm gonna start with this. So we're gonna create something together, and it's gonna be like oral language. So we're just gonna talk about something together. It could be anything, but anybody ever been to Dillon, Montana? Has anybody ever been to Dillon, Montana? Okay, good, because tomorrow I have to go to Dillon, Montana. So we're gonna talk about that, all right? So raise your hand again if you've been to Dillon, Montana. Okay, cool. All right. So you guys, we're just gonna talk for about 4 minutes about Dillon, Montana. I'm gonna maybe find out like 2 facts. This is what we're gonna be using our brain for, okay? We're gonna be learning about Dillon, or I'm gonna be learning about Dillon. And if you've never been to Dillon, okay, well, maybe you'll learn something about Dillon, Montana too. And you guys will be able to share, if you've been, you'll be able to share your knowledge. All right, you guys, so we're about to start talking about Dillon, Montana. Okay, we're about to start talking in French. Are you guys ready? You don't look ready. If you are ready, you should give me a round of applause to make me feel good. Thank you. Okay, I'm about to start talking in French. You ready? Just nod if you're ready. Class. What did I say? Class. What did I say? Okay. Class. Penser. Oh, penser means think. So show me that, please. Penser. Okay, class. Penser à Dillon, Montana. Penser à Dillon, Montana. Classe. Qui, dans la classe, qui a visité. Oh, visiter means visited. So show me visiter. Pensez. Visiter. Okay, classe. Pensez à Dylan, Montana. Pensez. Qui a visité Dylan, Montana? Ouh! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Ouh, classe. 5, 6 ou 7 personnes. Ouh, classe. 7. Non, classe. Regardez means look. So show me that, please. Regardez. Pensez. Visitez. Regardez. Hey, classe. Okay. 7 personnes. Ouh. 8 personnes. Classe. Regardez Benjamin. Benjamin est une personne. Hey, classe. Benjamin est une grande personne ou une petite personne? Oui. Hey, le papa de Benjamin. Petit. Oui. Oui. Benjamin est petite. Et papa, Benjamin a visité. What did I ask him? Benjamin a visité Dylan, Montana? Oh! Classe, Benjamin? Oui ou non? Benjamin a visité Dylan? Oui ou non? Non. Benjamin n'a pas visité Dylan. Okay, classe. 7 personnes ou 8 personnes? 7 personnes. I was thinking since, Daddy had visited Dylan, maybe Benjamin went too. Maybe he didn't raise his hand because he didn't understand the question because he's like studying English. Oh, okay. Qui a visité Dylan? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. 7. Les 7 personnes. Est-ce que, okay. Pensez. What does it say? What does that mean? Pensez à Dylan, Montana. Dylan, Montana est, okay, Benjamin est grand ou petit? Et Dylan, Montana, est grand ou petit? Petit ou petit? Okay. Dylan, Montana est petit.
Ouais.
Tout petit? Dylan est petit? Ou tout petit? Oh, petit. What's your name? Tara? Classe, Tara pense que Dylan, Montana, est petit. Qui pense que Dylan, Montana est tout petit? Oh, okay. All right, we're gonna write. Oh no, we're gonna review. All right, class. Now, if I was teaching a regular class of kids, I'd probably do a brain break right now. So I'm gonna do a brain break with you guys, okay? So you're gonna do what I do. Okay. I'm gonna tell you a little story, and you're gonna act it out. Okay. Okay. La classe se lève. Woo! Okay. La classe s'assoit. Fantastique. Okay. La classe se lève. Et la classe saute 3 fois. Ok, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Ok, et la classe s'assoit. Ok, classe. Pensez à Dylan, Montana, ok? Dylan, Montana. Ok, Tara pense que Dylan, Montana est petit ou tout petit? Et Benjamin Benjamin, oui ou non? Benjamin a visité Dylan? Non. Le papa de Benjamin a visité Dylan, oui ou non? Benjamin est grand ou petit? Et le papa de Benjamin? Le papa de Benjamin est grand ou petit? Très grand.
Oh.
Tara, did you say it was très grand? Did you say le papa de Benjamin est très... Oh. Et Tara, Dylan est petit ou tout petit? Petit. Et qui pense que Dylan est tout petit? So now we're gonna write. Benjamin, I don't have red. All I have is orange. So you take the orange, I'll take the black. Thank you. Then hold that, okay? Because I'm gonna need it in just a minute. Can you just hold it? Thank you. All right, so we're gonna write just very briefly, okay? Because I know it's getting kind of late. Okay, so first we'll write the title. Le titre. Okay, class, le titre. Benjamin est petit. Ou Dylan est tout petit. Benjamin est petit. Okay, Dylan est tout petit. Oh, sorry. Benjamin est petit. B, E, J, N. No. B, E, N, J, A, M, I, N. Oui?
Oui.
Okay. Benjamin est classe. Benjamin est petit. Tout petit. Non. Benjamin est petit. Ok, Benjamin est petit. Le papa est classe. Mon papa ou le papa de Benjamin? Oui. Le papa de B. Monsieur B. Est allé. Et classe, le papa de Benjamin est allé à Dillon, Montana, oui ou non? Ah, Benjamin! Son papa est allé à Dillon, oui ou non? Benjamin? Est allé à Dillon? Non. Son papa? Oui. Le papa de Monsieur Benjamin est allé à Dillon. D-I-L-L-O-N. Mais, classe, Monsieur Benjamin a visité Dillon? Oh, Benjamin n'a pas visité D-E-L-L-O-N. Oh, pauvre Benjamin. Usually in my class, I would do maybe 1 or 2 more sentences, depending on if you have like, may I have that, Benjamin? Thank you so much. You're amazing. Do you want to read with me? You want to stand with me? Yay! Oh gosh, it's so light and wonderful. My daughter's 21. I can't pick her up anymore. Okay, so Benjamin, may I have that? Okay, thank you. Can you hold this? The top? I need the bottom. Thank you. I'm right-handed. Okay, so I'm going to read this to you guys in French, and then we're going to read it in English. Well, you're going to read it in English. I'm going to listen to you. Isn't that cute? Okay, le titre. Benjamin est petit. Le papa de Monsieur B. Oh, thank you. Est allé à Dillon. Mais Benjamin n'a pas visité. Yay! Thank you. Dylan, I gotta hold this. Can I hold it? You wanna get down? You wanna get down? Oh, you're so much fun. I have to have this. I have to teach with it. Is that okay? Thank you. All right, so I'm gonna read this, and you guys are gonna just translate word by word in English, okay? And that way I'll be able to hear if there's anything you need a little explanation of. Okay, ready, set, go.
Benjamin is small.
Yeah. Okay, so you're moving on. We're gonna stay together. Okay, so we're gonna start over, and you're just gonna say the word I'm pointing at. Ready, set, go. Mr. B, Mr. Benjamin. So in English, we wouldn't say the dad of Mr. B. We would say Mr. B's dad or Benjamin's dad. But in French, we always have to say this, okay? We don't have an apostrophe S in French. It's always up like that. So let's back up and just read it again in English, okay? Ready, set, go.
Mr. is
So this word is because it's just like this, right? Is. In French, the only way that you can say you went somewhere is you have to say, well, there's another way, but people don't use it much. Is gone. So this is literally is gone. So we're just gonna read every single word, so that's what we're gonna say. All right, so we're gonna start over back here. Ready, set, go faster, go.
But
Woo! I didn't even teach you guys that word. You guys are so smart. All right, let's start back over here. Ready, set, go. So that means not, and that means not. So it's like not, has not. So this one's gone, or went, and this one's, you can see the word visited, right? Okay, so let's go back to the bud. Okay, ready, set, go. Poor Benjamin, do you think he'll ever go to Dylan? It's not that far away. Oh wait, I forgot to show you like where we're kind of at, okay? So we did this, we reviewed. Before we reviewed, we kind of took a little break. If you teach little kids, like, you can't just go from one thing to another like this. You've got to have a little break. And if you teach little kids, like, I wouldn't add things in. I would be like,